Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're giving you a live look outside. Beautiful day, and it's going to be a great weekend with a lot of outdoor events. Maybe the biggest this weekend. We'll be seeing the city united in pride. The 2025 Chicago Pride Parade is set to be bigger and bolder than ever. And our friend of the show, Terrence Chappell, Chicago Pride Parade Advisory Board member, is back with us to get us ready for the big day. Good to have you back here.
Thank you for having me, and happy Pride.
Happy
Kicking it
Pride.
off.
Yeah. So it's Sunday, right?
Yes.
June 29th, 11 a.m. You don't want to wait until 11 a.m. to try to get out there, but it's all going down on Sunday. It is the 54th annual parade. There's a lot of things new for this year's party. Let's walk through a bit of that. Floats, performances, community partners, you got it going on.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason Chicago was voted the safest city for LGBTQ plus travelers. We were also, fun fact about the Chicago Pride Parade, we were the first, bad day, but we were the first back in 1970. But like, I would say the newest thing and the greatest thing is that it's definitely community over celebrity, and so we have our out front.
Like that.
Yeah, it's dope. We've always been about community. And speaking of community, like we have our out front group and our out front organization leader, which is Task Force Chicago, which is headed by Christopher Balthazar, and they're located on the west side, and they do STI and STD testing as well as HIV testing for adolescents in resilient communities. And also, we also have two doctors, Dr. Mayor Green and Dr. Catherine Criticos, who are the community grand marshals. And so we're winking that, science matters.
I saw that Dr. Green was here on the show a few weeks ago. She's super excited to be out there this weekend. So I love that, the way that you said, community over celebrity, the people that everybody knows, right around here. So they are this year's grand marshals, the doctors.
The community grand marshals.
Yeah.
And so like we're saying, obviously community matters. We're winking that science does matter. And I think, the way that we were able to seamlessly do that. And I would say what you can also expect this year is that we've transitioned to a nonprofit. And so, yeah, we're an official Chicago Pride Parade nonprofit, United in Pride. And Steve Long and Ron and all those guys have been very instrumental.
Tell me how that makes a difference in being a nonprofit and how people can support. Like maybe, people can't get out there themselves, but being a nonprofit, people can help from far away.
Absolutely. And so one of the reasons that we elevated Task Force Chicago was because we don't want to compete with other nonprofits, but we definitely want to elevate their mission. And one of the ways you can support is by donating. And also I would say it makes it even more intentional, because one thing I didn't know for the longest time, for years it was run by a couple, Tim Fry and Richard Pfeiffer. I didn't know that. And you would be on his golf cart and like running the volunteers and making sure. And
that's dedication.
That is dedication. He was getting out there. And that's another thing I definitely want to also point out, that this year we have 233 volunteers. Last year it was about 60. That's almost 4 times the amount. And so that's exactly what we mean when we say united in pride. People showing up, making our love, our lived experiences, and our presence felt. Yeah,
and I want you to delve a little bit deeper into that, because for so many people this is more than just a parade.
Absolutely, it is. And it's, to quote Tim Fry, who's the co-founder of the Chicago Pride Parade, he says he plans the parade for that person, that kid, adult, no matter where you're at, who doesn't necessarily feel safe being themselves. I do think, Chicago is very much a sanctuary city. They're very happy about that. And not everyone feels comfortable being out and proud. And I remember my first Pride Parade, I wasn't out. It was back in 2007.
You just went as a spectator?
Well, I went with you can call it that. But I went with my boyfriend, with my girlfriend Andrea he was this Russian guy who was like, to my family he was known as Andrea, but he was like this big Russian man. His name was Andre, and so like I Kissed a Girl was really popular. It was definitely not kissing any girls. But I do pride the Chicago Pride Parade as being very instrumental, because I did come out that fall, later that fall, and I do remember it just being, everyone was so happy, was very joyful, felt very safe, and I do remember that was very instrumental in helping me kind of out there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of other people will feel that way too. Thank you for what you do on a regular basis. Thanks for coming back on the show. And everybody, here's information for Sunday. Make sure you head on out early. Okay.